Well, our role is, one, to continue to support the CDMA operators around the world. We now have over 525 million subscribers around the world, and Asia is the largest market for CDMA right now, followed by North America and then Latin America. And we have two roles there. One, we have many operators, over 300 total, and most of those are continuing with CDMA 2000, both 1X and EVDO. And so we have a development of 1X Advanced and EVDO Advanced that we're continuing to help them with. But we now have a dual role, and we recently became a market requirements partner for 3GPP because we have several operators, including Verizon here in the US, who have chosen LTE as their migration path. And so our role there is to help CDMA operators who have chosen a fourth generation technology migrate to that technology, or more accurate, I guess, interface with the new technologies, because they will exist side by side for a long period of time. As fourth generation networks come online, whether they are LTE or whether they're WiMAX, the carriers are demanding dual mode devices. They will have their 3G networks in place for maybe another decade or more, and they'll have LTE and they'll have WiMAX in hotspots, first in the urban areas and then growing out more and more. So we're working with them on the device requirements for dual mode CDMA plus next generation devices. Related to that, as you point out, is not only interoperability in their own networks, but roaming, both domestic roaming and international roaming. And so to make that go much faster, we're doing a roaming hub with some commercial providers who will provide a central point for new operators, whether they're CDMA or other technologies, as a roaming central point to roam onto other networks internationally. Sure, so maybe there are three trends. One you've probably picked up on here at CTA have to do with smartphones. So we're clearly seeing that trend both in the Americas, but in Asia, even in Africa. Smartphones. But the other two things you talked about are clearly important too. M2M, machine-to-machine, smart devices, smart networks, that's an area of big growth for our network operators. And I think it's especially true for operators who are used to lower ARPU, because typically the revenue that you'd see on a machine-to-machine device will be lower than what's seen on a voice device. And so we see a lot of interest in expanding that into consumer electronics, telemetry, lots of vertical markets. And you know, it's just a big growth area for CDMA. Femtocells, we had an announcement this week with the Femto Forum. The announcement was that we've completed the requirements documents for CDMA femtocells. And there have been some commercial announcements about those broadband femtocells that are now being deployed by operators here in the Americas, but also in Asia as well. And we think that's going to be so critical for network development to offload some of the huge amounts of data that are coming across because of mobile video and other things, and also to take advantage of multiple technologies, whether it's CDMA plus WiMAX or CDMA plus LTE. It's clearly the trend of the future. Still growing. It's very exciting. I mentioned we have over 300 operators, 525 million subscribers around the world. The largest growth in terms of most numbers are coming from the biggest markets, of course. China Telecom was able to come to CTA this year. They're putting on 3 million new subscribers a month on their CDMA network, which, if you look at it, it's 100,000 new users per day. In India, they're just now awarding the 3G licenses. So the spectrum is just being awarded for EVDO launch in India. That's a big growth market. We just opened up an office in Africa, and so we're seeing a lot of growth in Africa. Even in Latin America, where we have Latin America and Caribbean, 54 networks, and we have 14 that are in deployment right now. So still growing around the world, including CDMA.450. That's certainly a growth area in Latin America in a number of countries. Half a dozen countries are in the process of doing that. Anatel is just in the process of looking at the frequency to be deployed in the 450 band. We're very involved in that process.